As a summary, it's a frustrating book. Hey everyone, Fina here from Fina Reads. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Today with the, for now, last review, spoiler thoughts type of video for the Gunmetal God series, because I've read book 4, Dark Drinker, and I have thoughts. Quick summary of the book. Dark Drinker is happening kind of at the same time as Elder Epoch, with the big difference that Elder Epoch follows the happenings in Zerman Alanya, and Dark Drinker is more focused on cruises and what's happening on that side of the world. We are following a new POV, which is trader merchant Vascos, as he's trying to overthrow Hyperion, which is left in a kind of vulnerable position after the siege of Kostany didn't go over very well. And then we're following, surprise, surprise, Micah. He's back. He's resurrected. Not really. Saved is probably the better word. We will talk about it. Initial thoughts of Dark Drinker by Zamil Akhtar. A lot of good things happening. A lot of confusing things happening. A lot of open questions still. And I'm still not 100% sure how I feel about this book. It's definitely more plot focused than the other books. Book 1 and 2 were heavily character driven books. Book 3 started to introduce more plot points. And book 4, I find, is way more on the plot side than on the character driven side. I think that's why I might have struggled more with this book than other readers did. Generally, I think my biggest gripe with it, and please take that with a grain of salt, I still think Gunmetal Gods is a fantastic series. It's still one of my favorite, and it's not that I'm thinking this book was trash. It really wasn't. But one of my biggest gripes with it was that I felt the vibe and the tone was very different in this one. One of the things that really bugged me was the vulgarity and the, yes, admittedly very minor sex scene, but things like he pulled his cock out to pee, I found very unnecessary. Just say he's peeing in the one sentence, more than fine. And with that one sex scene in particular, I didn't feel it furthered the plot at all. I felt, and maybe that is just me as a female reader speaking, I felt it was more a scene geared towards the male readership just to make him happy. Generally speaking, I didn't think the women were particularly great in this book. Again, I'm not sure yet if that was on purpose, but having seen Zamil write fantastic, strong, intelligent, yet flawed women that have an important role as part of the story in the first 3 books, I was really missing this here. All the female characters felt like side pieces, unimportant, not well fleshed out, and really just there to make the men look better. And unfortunately, another reason why this book didn't dethrone Conqueror's Blood for me is I just didn't like Vasco's POV. I'm sure he was not meant to be liked. I mean, I didn't like Keva at the end of book 3, but I still liked reading about him. In this case, I didn't like Vasco's, and I didn't care at one point about his POV at all. I appreciated that his POV in particular provided some details, some really needed details, especially after Elder Epoch. But I was always happy when Micah's POV came back around. Talking about Vasco's POV though, the things I did like were all the details on the emigrants. So this whole island business that we got a very light glimpse in Elder Epoch on. I appreciated that we learned a lot more, the importance of the souls, where Vascos was kind of coming from and what he was trying to do, what that volcano or mountain has to do with it, at least a little bit. I mean, it's not that all of our questions are answered by any means. There are a lot more open questions that I now have after reading this book, but I was glad that we got more detail about it and that we weren't left hanging after Elder Epoch just hinted at some weird things and didn't go into detail at all. My question still is, what does this island have to do with the bigger picture of everything? I mean, in Elder Epoch and in Dark Drinker, we learned a lot about the gods and everything that is above the gods and that part of things. But that connection, at least for me, to everything that is happening on that island, that connection to me has not formed yet. So I'm really curious to see what that is going to be in book 5, hopefully. The other part that I really enjoyed about this book is that we got more detail about cruises, in particular Hyperion and its Imperator Josias. I really enjoyed his perspective and how he is ruling the country. from the aftermath of what happened in Costany, like those little details, how he is not wearing shoes, how he wants to make sure that his flock is strong, kind of a nod to what was discussed in book 1 with the 10 years of peace and everybody is kind of soft. So I thought that was kind of a nice, is it an Easter egg in that sense? I don't know. But I thought it was a nice nod to how wrong, quote unquote, in their opinion, Costany handled things. I also liked the whole layout of the city with the head and feet and whatnot. I could really imagine how the city was laid out. I love those little details when they were walking through the market and talking to some of the merchants and just describing how that whole scene worked out. I mean, I know we walked through Costany as well and through Zelturia, but I felt the description of Hyperion just felt different, which matches the whole experience I have with this book. This whole book just feels different. I can't really put it into words, but somehow it feels different than the other 3 books. Not worse or better, just different. And then, of course, Micah's view. Micah is my favorite character in the series. My heart belongs to Micah. So I was really excited to see that we get Micah back in Dark Drinker, even though the whole resurrection process was a little bit, Deus ex machina, but that's okay. I don't mind those type of tropes. I thought it was really well thought out on how Micah basically starts his repentance journey on righting his wrongs, using Mara, Anna, and Princip kind of as a stand-in for all the things he has done wrong, fully knowing that he will never be able to change what he has done in his past. But I just loved his awareness for that situation. Generally, his engagement with Mara, Anna, and Princip, I thought was interesting to watch. It had like a wholesome, heartwarming aspect, even though I wished it would have went a lot deeper than it did. Also, part of this whole POV left me with a lot of more questions. So one of the things that I thought was interesting to an extent in the book is there were a lot of things mentioned but not explained. And I don't know if those things are important for later books or not. For example, how Princip kept dreaming of the woman that taught him to play the flute. Is she important? I don't know. Was there any relevance to it for the plot? I don't know. It's just like it was mentioned so often and no one ever reacted to it. So it's like, should I take note of this? Can I just read over this? What do I need to remember of this story? Similar to not just Princip's story, but the other very important part of Micah's POV is when he drinks that tree juice, that he then all of a sudden experiences Keva's life, but not his real life, more an alternate version of it. But then again, nothing happened further with it. So was it important that he was Keva now? He softened up a little bit afterwards, but generally speaking, was it important that he saw Keva? Was it important that we saw an alternate version of Keva's life? Like, are we waking up at the end of book 5 and is the resolution, oops, that was all an alternate timeline, it was all a dream, all Twilight-esque, and then all of a sudden learn, oh, nothing has happened, someone just had a vision and is now stopping the siege to Costany? That would drive me mad if that would happen, just FYI. But getting back to my actual point, so we saw this whole, that was quite a big part of the book, right? That he became Keva and was basically living Keva's life, or he was still aware that it was him, but he was seeing how Keva lived his very joyous life. But we didn't learn anything about the tree juice. Was that important? What does it actually mean? We didn't learn anything about the importance of his vision. Why was it Keva's life he was seeing and not some random else's life? Or why was he even seeing someone else's life? I just have so many questions about so many things in the book that it's really hard for me to say now this is what I think about this book, because I just don't know what I'm supposed to do with all of that information yet. End result is probably I have to wait for book 5 and see what Zamil Akhtar is doing with all of the information that we have been given so far. And I'm really curious to see how any of this is going to be important for the conclusion and in which direction it's even going. Which actually, if you turn it around, is kind of cool. Oftentimes you kind of have an idea already where certain things, like where the story is going. I have no idea with this one. And again, what does the island have to do with that? So many questions that I would love to have answers for. It's a frustrating book. So I think that's kind of as a summary, that it's a frustrating book because it answers a bunch of questions, but it adds so many more to it, and you don't know what you need to pay attention for in the book, really. So let me know your thoughts. Are you as confused as I am? Did I completely miss something? That could totally have been the case because there was a lot of stuff going on. Did I miss the connections that were made? Please enlighten me down in the comments. If you're interested, I put a playlist together with all of the videos that I've made around the Gunmetal Gods series. If you want to hear more about Gunmetal Gods or other books that I read and enjoy and like to talk about, feel free to subscribe here. I would love to see you again. And then there's nothing else left to say other than I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And I hope I see you soon with another video. Bye.